The second is screens. So, and when I'm talking about screen, I'm talking about transaction screens. Because again, just like any third-party application, when you're working with the API, you cannot read templates. We cannot read templates. That is not a thing that you can deal with in the API. You can read what fields are available in QuickBooks, but we cannot read template layout, anything like that. That's not part of the API. So how do we deal with that? On each of the template screens, right, so estimates, sales orders, invoices, what we will see is we will see the template list. Right, we can read that list. So if the list exists in QuickBooks, we will see that list. So a lot of times what you'll see in here is you'll see, you know, Joe's Garage estimate. They named their estimate Joe's Garage estimate. So you know which one. If you don't want to see the others in here, like if you come in here and you see they've got all these other ones, the reason for that is they haven't made them inactive. So best practice is to come in and make them inactive. They should have done that already, right? But because the template just picks up whatever template they used last time, sometimes they don't go inactivate these ones that they don't use. So best case scenario is to inactivate the ones they're not using. So once we choose the template that they're used to using on here, and you choose it on the screen, we have this little star that makes it the default. Okay, so they can choose a default. And when it's yellow, that means you've chosen the default. Okay, and you do have to do this. We don't have a templates list in here right now. We don't have a templates list in here. You do it from each of the screens. I don't know if we're going to change that. It's just the dynamic of being inside of this online version. So you choose the favorite. So then there's two areas in here where we can choose. So we have manage layout right here, right? Little next to the star. You guys see that too? And that is talking about the layout of the headers on the screen, not the print. Layout of the headers on the screen. And then the second one we have is down here, which is the column chooser. This is on the screen, not how we're going to print them. So we'll start with the one up top, manage layout. So you can see if there's custom fields, you can see what the fields are titled, ship method. You have the layout order. So if it's in 000, it really doesn't know what order to put it in, right? It's going to be putting it in based on created, I think is the next level. And then you have layout type. So layout type is put it in the header, make it a pop-up. I will make one a pop-up so we can see it. Or you say non-visible, meaning don't put it on here at all. Okay? Like in this case, project manager is non-visible on this estimate. Right? The other thing that you can do is you can say begin group, which is the same as saying begin the next line. Right? So if I wanted project job to show up on the next line, then I could check that box. Or due date. I don't see project job on here at all, which is weird, so I'm going to have to ask about that. Due date to show up on the next line, so it's stacking them if they have a whole bunch of custom fields up top here. That is a very similar field to NetSuite. If you guys have been in NetSuite before, where you can like stack the top of the transaction. And then you can say the size, right? So you see the PO has a size 2, that's why it's a wider box. Size 1, we can decide the size on the screen as well if we need to. Not the same as QuickBooks, right? We try to keep this as native to QuickBooks as possible, but of course, online technology is a little different. And for us to recode, this is something that this is a standard design template, right? It's not something we wrote. So we're not going to recreate the wheel just because something is a little bit better. So you can choose and play around with your layouts. This is tied to the user. And we can say, okay. We do have some security settings going in so that the users can't mess around with these. Once you say okay, you do have to hit refresh. Just like in QuickBooks. So now you can see due date is on the next line. I have my pop-out. Well, my demo instance is my demo instance is in a pre-release beta, so I have to ask them why. But that's what that pop-out. When you see the more, you'll see the pop-out. It's because I don't have anything in there. Okay. All right, so we see how to customize the template here and add fields here. This is not customizing the print template. This is just what they see. Any questions on that?
And these modifications are specific to the user, correct? And not global for all users?
You know what? I don't know the answer to that because we had it specific to the user and then I told them they have to make it global. Let me look and see. Okay, yeah, so they did. So column chooser, they're going to say, yeah, so it's restricted if they're allowed to. So it's under the reporting because this is the standard reporting. So, well, customer, vendor, item, transaction. So yeah, if they're not allowed to do column chooser on transactions, then they would not be allowed to modify them. So it's under the reporting, under the role, under roles. And we're going to add additional, like every transaction, but for right now, it's saying they don't have ability to edit templates, basically, which is what QuickBooks says. Question. Okay. Everybody follow so far? Any questions on editing header? Anybody struggle with anything when they did it?
Can you undo? So if you add a begin group and it goes to the next line, how do you, and then you decide that you don't like it on the next line, it's getting too big. How do you undo that? I don't.
So here where it has you just uncheck it and say, okay. I have to ask them what the sort order is here because it's not in layout sort order. Maybe it's, Alicia, because it's on page 2.
Yeah, the box wasn't I said begin group and then it moved it to page 2, but then the checkbox wasn't there anymore. So I don't know how to get it back to page 1. I don't know.
Oh, you don't have to have it on page 1. It's just the sort order. I'm not sure what sort order it's in right now. So that's what I just made a note of that. They have to choose the sort order. But if you click on page 2 and uncheck the box and say okay, then it should go back to flat.
Okay.
And then you have to hit refresh.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, so then let's go down to the columns. And this is just on estimate. Of course, it would look different if it's on a PO, right? Different fields. Under the little grid setting here, right? It has reset grid layout, so that'll go back to like how it is before anybody touched it if you wanted to. But then you have the column chooser here. This one's a little different. It's drag and drop. So if I wanted quantity first, I push it up there, and look, it's already there. It's like a live refresh or a live thing. You don't have to refresh it. Item, I can add manufacturer's part number, warehouse bin. We have coin on hand and coin available as grayed out columns. So those are, usually in QuickBooks you have to hover to see those. We added those as columns. And then class. Markup dollars and markup percentage, we have those as two separate columns. I'm not sure if it's going to continue as two separate columns, but the idea is to use one or the other, right? People, you either do markup, most people do markup percentage, let's be real. They don't do markup dollars. So most likely you're going to be choosing markup percentage in here. And it'll calculate either way. The tax alternate SKU is a custom field that I had that I could add. You can also, when you're in here, drag and drop things around to move them if you need to. You can resize them, and it will remember. So pretty straightforward there.
Is the refresh button just to instantiate the changes, or does it save the changes, or both?
This refresh?
Yeah.
That's for when you choose from here, the layout. Yeah, you have to refresh the screen. And then it will show you the changes. I was recording a video one time and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not working. And then I hit refresh. I was like, ugh, there it is. There it is.
I don't know if this is kind of similar to the question that Chris had, but when we're editing the columns or changing what fields are appearing and where, if I'm doing that as a user, is another user going to see those same changes, or it's like a per user?
So on the templates, all the users will see those changes on the templates, like what's showing on the screen. On the customer center, if you add a column or move things around, that's based on your user, just like in QuickBooks. Pretty good on that? So first thing that we have to do, and the reason I start with custom fields first is because the custom field has to exist, right, to show up on here. Second thing we have to do is go through the different transaction types and make sure that what's on the screen is what we want to show on the screen.